So I at least have been working on the storytelling stuff for about 3 years now. Spent a lot of money on it, learned a lot from you, taken a lot of classes from other people. And this week I realized that possibly the most valuable and important part of storytelling, the best place to use it, people are completely ignoring and not taking advantage of. We're missing and we're not doing. So, this year I started doing this networking events, going in person to entrepreneur networking, trying to understand more about what people with money might need for speaking skills, get a better idea of some kind of demographic I could help out with. Well, doing those, I met this man, Wade.
Okay.
About 3 months in, we're at another one of these events, and it's me, a lady who runs a marketing company, a man who is a CEO of an actual profitable company, me, and Wade. And we go through our turns, like, what do you do? What are you into? And I've learned that networking, it's a lot like Survivor. Everybody looks like we're friendly and it's just a fun time, but everybody is looking at each other, looking for things that they think make you someone worth talking to, and looking for things, red flags that tell them you fail. They shouldn't talk to you. Get out of there as soon as possible. We go on the circle and we get to Wade, and Wade immediately fails all three.
Oh, no.
He starts talking about, I'm doing things for art and I love it. And immediately go, well, you're not taking this seriously. Not ruthless enough to be making profit. He starts talking about what his skill set is, and it's vague of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then the question of, what are you working on now? It's like, I don't really have something coming together, but I would like to do something that, connects with my art. But what happened when Wade told this, he started off with, so I worked on this documentary called Rivers of Life, where we traveled to a bunch of different countries, making films about beautiful rivers and nature. And the whole point of that was to try and get people to spend more money on cleaning them up or preserving them, because I think it'll help for this. And despite failing all 3 points, everybody was focused on him. Nobody cut him off. Nobody started pivoting to the next person. Nobody found an excuse to bounce. Everyone was really interested to hear what Wade had to say. We listened to his entire backstory and started asking more questions after. This is where I realized that conversational storytelling is the secret weapon that we've all been missing out on. This can be used for, personal life, but no one really cares about personal life. They'll figure that on their own. They want to know if they can also help them in their professional life. Business networking, this is dog eat dog. This is one of the most powerful, lucrative, best ways. If you building a company or you're just working at a company, if you are better at networking, you will get paid more. You will be promoted. You will get funding. Everything stems from this skill. And I'm like, holy crap, despite everything that you possibly could do wrong, good conversational stories make everything work there. So that's why I sent you that message, that I wanted to talk about this and start working on this today.
Oh, I love it. That's a great example of the power of storytelling.
So that is my first story. Under 2 minutes.
Okay, I see what you did there. You snuck that one by me. I'll give you that one.
That's why it's so good. Most of the big stuff with storytelling is, how do you hold people's attention? When can you use it? Like, we're talking about this from YouTube. People can click off instantly, no friction. How do you keep them from doing that? If this is something that you don't even notice happening, that's working. That is what's working.
Oh, yeah, well done on that. I didn't even realize how long it went. I thought this was just a longer intro.
Great. I'm glad this worked. So what I want to do with you, I think I'd like to do a couple of episodes like this, but I want to first do a story. declare what the point of it was, and then discuss a little back and forth. We'll just try it on like a coat to figure out what fits well, like what worked well, what didn't work well, what we should do next time, and slowly get better at these conversational stories. Find better places to use them at, better understand what it's used for, but just by practicing and trying it out with each other. I think we could learn and improve this way better than taking a course or learning. At this point, we both know so much. I think we just need to experiment and figure this out together.
That's a great concept. So, where else other than an intro for a show are you going to use that story you just told me?
I would use that in a lot of places, which is why I think this is so valuable. If I do that workshop for the Junior Chamber of Commerce in Nashville, this is one of the things I would mention. Like, you want to guys are trying to get better at networking. Here's one of the key things that this story could both be used to explain what not to do, and also could be used to explain how storytelling could help you. I could be using this talking with a friend about what's going on in my life. There's several different places I could use it. It was just a tiny little tweak to change what the purpose was. This time, and for our little recurring process, declaring what the point of it was for me that I was trying to get done this time. So you can't really give feedback on writing without knowing what the author was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So in this case, I was trying to convince you, persuade, that storytelling in a conversation will be helpful in your professional life.
I think you did just that. You made a very compelling argument there.
Well, I spent some time thinking about it. But let's take the step first of critiquing. What was bad about it? What could be improved? What felt like it didn't feel right when you turned on the coat? And then some things that might have been good. And let's just figure that out through the lab, what works and what doesn't.
There was a lot that worked there because I didn't even realize what you were doing. So I didn't devote as much attention trying to critique it. I was just enjoying the story, which is how most people are going to look at a story. So that worked extremely well. You put me right in the audience's shoes there. The one thing I would say looking at for trying to grow the story or make it a little more powerful would be to give him almost a hero's journey of talking about how he's got all these red flags that normally shuts people down, and maybe just mention that there was someone in the room who is starting to look around, lose attention, and then he dives into the story and captures everyone back in.
Good. I like it. And that is the kind of advice that's easy enough that you can do that on the fly. So next time I tell that story or another story, I'll be on the lookout for the place I'm going for. Is there any quick waypoint I can make happen before that? That is more of an opposite of that. So I know I'm going to say, hey, this totally saved his bacon. More clearly show that it was going wrong before that.
You did a good job showing that this shouldn't work. He shouldn't be the center of attention, but yet he was. I think you can, by showing that contrast of him not holding the attention at the beginning, but then getting it with the story, just makes it blaringly obvious.
Cool. One thing that I'm trying to squeeze in that might be a master level is giving more context in the story. There's a thing where you sacrifice a certain amount of time to tell a story, but I'm learning from George Blacksman stuff that you can actually get the reverse, where context in a story can actually explain more per second than a normal information thing. So there was a part where I'm talking about how people would start cutting you off. Mm-hmm. These are the things I would like to get into later, where I explain, here's the stuff that you run into when you're in a conversation, the problems you could have, and here are the things that it solves for you. But instead of trying to explain that at a bullet point of 1, 2, or 3, if I can learn how to put those into story better, I see all the problems that Wade was running into. That's the stuff that I might run into too. I see all the things that it solves for him. So we get that educational step along with the persuasion step. And I think we could do it faster than if just doing like a presentation.
Oh, absolutely. that little bit of context helps get a more real picture painted and helps cement it in your mind of this is something that's very applicable.
Okay, I'm going to go 3 points. Feedback, intro, story itself, and then the connecting to the point and transitioning out of it. Let's go through those one at a time.
All right, intro. Honestly, I'm having a hard time remembering now where the just intro to the story started versus intro to the episode ended. It all felt very seamless, which is great for the purpose of a podcast where you're the one starting it. But in a conversation, you're not going to be able to just roll the ball directly into it like that. So I'm curious to hear how you would loop that into more of a conversational setting.
This is one of the questions I was thinking about. I want to build with us what are the metrics we need to measure by, but I think one thing is going to be how close the needle of your story matches the needle of the existing conversation. Because I come in and we're talking, just starting the podcast, it is like walking into a conversation that exists because we know the topic's going to be creating and storytelling. And if I walked in and started just, so the stock exchange and the numbers weren't coming out right. And then the takeaway was, and this is how you know how to, that you should be shorting when this happens. Like, that's a great story, but this has fuck all to do with what we were talking about. And I think that's exactly what you're getting at right there, where you need to be able to have an alignment between what the existing conversation is and the direction the story is going. So in this case, I spent some time. I had some other ones I was more excited to talk about, but this one would hit the direction of our podcast beginning the best. And I'm seeing how much that choosing the right thing to say is more important than how well you say it.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that one. It was spot on for just rolling into today's topic. Really well done on that. Bringing it up into conversation, I feel like you could set it up in a way to where you're already making it have more stakes and just say, let me tell you why I do what I do. Let me tell you what motivated me to get into this. Just a little short thing like that to get their attention, set the hook. I think that would be a powerful intro for a different setting.
Cool. This is something I want us to experiment A/B with. I wanted to try have it as invisible as possible. And you're saying that sometimes it would be good to have it really obvious, to have it as a signpost to pay attention. And I think you're right that there's a right time for each of these, and we're just going to have to play around with it till we learn.
Sometimes it's better to clue people in on what you're doing versus just having it seem like all seamless. I remember there was one of the tests for the level 4 whiskey som. I had to do lead a tasting inside their whiskey vault to two of the instructors, and one of them tried to throw me for a loop, and instead of going with the third bottle I had planned, I called out, "Oh, if you think that of this one, I'm going to pivot." And I literally said, "I'm going to pivot, and we're going to go with this one over here." And just told them, "Yeah, this is not my plan at all. I'm going to make this up as I go now. And I hope that you're along for the ride because I don't know where this is going either yet."
So it's a signpost that the tone has changed, and knowing the tone is very important for any conversation or human connection.
That, and also, I think it's more impressive if you clue them in of, I haven't gone this route. I haven't planned for this. This is all just me now. This isn't me having to think back to a month ago when I thought out, this is the choices I'm going to make. This is how I'm going to lead this. Oh, we're going to do something that's different and unique to just you. I am making this for you now. And if I land this plane, you're going to be more impressed versus if I did the same thing but didn't clue you in that this was all new. You would just think, oh, he planned for this. He knew I was going to do this.
Now, this is excellent right here. you're talking about making it more impressive and have more impact. And I think one of the most critical things we're going to teach each other from doing this is figuring out what is the most important thing in each situation. I think sometimes in your situation, hell yeah. Let me just ask you, for that thing you were doing, what was the goal you wanted to have happen? What did the effect of your words that you wanted to have on the audience be?
Uh, I just wanted them to know, hey, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but that's part of the test is being able to handle when people throw you curveballs like that. I
Well, I'll take it a
didn't
little bit bigger.
I didn't
Go ahead.
plan for this. I'm going in blind and I wanted to be judged according to knowing that I'm making this up on the spot now. And I got one of
Mm.
the highest results back on that test because I clued them into it.
Yeah. So the sliver that you said right then was to make them feel what's happening. But your goal of the entire presentation was you wanted them to give you a good grade. You wanted them to like you. You wanted them to have a very good time, have a positive impression of the whole experience. It didn't need to actually teach them everything about whiskey because they know a lot. It needed them to feel like you know a lot about whiskey and to feel like you would make them have a good time. And the pivot you made there serves that goal. But we need to know what the final end goal is to know if that is actually helping us or hurting us. One really big thing that we're going to talk in the next section, so much of what I learned about storytelling was wrong because it was wrong for the situation that I'm going into. And that I don't want us ever lose sight for that for a moment, that anything we say, this is a good idea or a bad idea, we have to explain for what situation.
That's a good point. Yeah, every situation is going to be different, and there are some situations where you're going to want to save face and look like, yeah, I did know this was going to happen.
Mm.
That's a very good
And we
point.
might have a situation that's the opposite, where I really want to like boost up this other guy. So I want to look a little crappy to make him look good by comparison. This is the actual goal of this interaction. And I'm getting more excited about this when we're talking about it. So I know that I blindsided to do this, so we can't really have a super deep dive critiquing it. I just want to run through the motions of this all.
Of course.
But I think the next question that's going to be the most important we should answer every time, how did you feel about the length of the story?
It felt good. I felt a little long for an intro of a podcast episode, but when I got the reveal of this was your story, it was so worth it, and the payoff was great. Yeah,
Cool.
the length was great. I wouldn't change that.
Every time I want to ask that question and answer that question. Because I think in a conversation, you have more leeway than a YouTube video, but you have less leeway than a lot of times. People will stop listening to you even if they don't leave. People will start cutting you off. People will start talking to other people or just not even like remember what you said. And I think there will be more value on shorter stories. And I think if we can master never going too long, you can get into the interactive stuff where somebody jumps in, adds something to it, and you keep going. And then maybe the next time someone jumps in, I can't come back from this. I'm really glad I got the main parts already out. So now the conversation's changed the corner. The thing I needed to have happen already happened.
That's a great point. I would argue that one of the best indicators that you've got a really, really solid story and you've got a good hook, you've got everyone's attention, is let's say someone walks into the room mid story, everyone goes, "Oh my god, you're here!" And then they go back and ask you, "So can you finish the story? What happened next?" Or here, you guys sit down and join us for this. If they lose attention and they don't go back to the story, don't try and force it. Leave the story. You can come back to it another time. You can tell a different one later. But if you can get them to ask you to continue the story after something like that, you've got magic.
I'm seeing this as a God level rule in everything we've done where just don't go too long. If you make it too short, but you're doing a good job, people will come back and ask you. And in many times, that's actually a superior outcome than getting through the whole thing.
There's even times where I will purposely leave the story short and be like, you guys don't want to hear that. We'll talk about that some other time. We don't need to
Mm-hmm.
cover that one today too, and leave them wanting more.
Mm-hmm. The whiskey sommelier, I can't pronounce French even though I'm studying it, program, their beginner version, directly comes out and say, do not explain more than that the people need. In fact, try to explain a little less so that they can be part of the dance by asking for the next step. And I've seen this in other arts. Well, I'm not going to deep dive on it, but holy crap, last time I'm saying it, always keep an eye on how long it is. And let's talk about that every single story we tell.
Absolutely.
And then the final point, the transition out and how much did this accomplish the goal that we wanted it to accomplish.
Again, I gotta say, 10 out of 10 on this because I did not realize what you were doing until it was done. And goddamn, that was such a successful way of hammering in your point of how well this works.
Thank you. All right, so now let's jump a little bit into the theory section now that we have an example in our head. I think that just taking one application, networking is so powerful of an application for this. And it's not something I see anyone being taught. Everybody is taught how to do these grandiose Toastmasters and TED Talks. No one's teaching you how to do this. Or they're just doing super small stuff of here's how to, talk attractive so you can get dates, or this even smaller, here's how to make your pitch sound nice. So people enjoy listening to the sound of your voice, so they'll keep listening to it. But no one's talking about how to do short conversational storytelling. And I see that the storytelling would work great for that, which unlocks every avenue of financial and career side of your life. It looks like it also help you with your personal life too. Other than networking, though, what places do you see? You are doing storytelling more than any of us, but you're doing it in a different way of life. So can you tell us what applications would conversational storytelling have that we might want to investigate in future episodes, or people might want to try it?
Oh my god, just go out and talk to someone. It's so much fun doing it with a complete stranger. Pick one thing nearby, focus on that, and try and strike up a conversation. And more than trying to get to tell a story yourself, get them to tell you a story. You will be amazed
Ooh.
the doors it opens up and what all happens. One of the most recent examples of this, I went out to a brewery down the road with Ashlyn one night, and we were just going to grab a beer and a pizza, and it'll be an easy dinner, end of a long week, good little unwind time. And as I'm going up to the counter we got our beer sat down on the table already, but we figured out what pizza we want. I'm going to go up and order it. As I'm walking up, I look to the left and I see there's two guys at a table, and they've got a little just paper sign saying Minnesota Lockpickers Club. And I place the order for the pizza, and I go back to the table where Ashlyn's at, and I sit down and say, I need you to be okay with something. I'm going to be back in 10 minutes. And I'm sorry, I'm going to abandon you for a little bit. I have to go talk to some people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just walked over to their table. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was a thing. How often do you guys do this? And they said, this is our first time actually meeting in person.
Wow.
This is just, we've got a Discord server. We just chat on there. We're just enthusiasts. We have no idea how many people are going to show up. We have no idea if we'll do this again. But hey, if you like lockpicking, take a picture of this. You got to jump in here. You got to join all these things. I haven't joined a single one yet. I'm busy. I'll admit. But hey, fun talk with them. And hey, what's your guys' name? I forget the first guy's name. The second guy over in the corner goes, oh, I'm Ryan. All right, I'm Ryan too. Nice to meet another Ryan. And he immediately goes, are you going to Ryan Fest? Tell me more. Oh yeah. Apparently Ryan Fest is taking over a Twins game at the end of July, and they've got like 2 or 3 sections that are reserved for people named Ryan.
Mhm.
Beforehand, they are going to a bar known as Cowboy Jack's, but for the day it will be renamed to Cowboy Ryan's, where you can drink in pregame. And then when you go out to the baseball field, you get to go out onto the field before the game if your name is Ryan and you have an ID to prove it. And I go, oh my God, I'm so in. Okay, I'm buying tickets right now. We're doing this. I will see you there, Ryan. I have just met you, but I am committed to this. And I walk back down, grab our pizza, sit down with Ashley, and I go, you're never going to fucking believe what just happened. And she goes, you talk to guys who like lockpicking. I was like, oh, no, no. I talked to a Ryan. It's so much fun just getting those little experiences and having no idea where they are going to take it.
So you would say that that time being able to tell stories added something to your life?
More so than just being able to tell stories, but learning how to cue other people up to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so important, and just not being afraid to approach someone and get them to talk about themselves. There is nothing more that anyone likes in this world more than talking about themselves.
Yeah. I'm writing that down because making somebody talk about themselves, obvious slam dunk. Getting someone else to tell a story, I've never imagined that. So I want to do a separate episode in the future on how you accomplish that little magic kung fu.
Oh
But
God, I can go into that absolutely. That is just bartending 101, my friend.
I know we're going to have so much material to dig in mind with you. For that particular one, I would say that was a story itself. What would you say that story just now accomplished for us?
I would say it got you to change your mind about how you go out and view social dynamics a little bit.
Mm. Nice, nice. One of the big things I want to get out of learning and experimenting with this together is seeing what places we can use it for. I think there's going to be a lot more, like you got a magic key, you're looking for locks everywhere that we didn't see before. But also, I think we have to start training our minds and anyone who's watching this to know what to look for in a story, because that'll both tell you what to put in what you say, but it's also going to train you of what to start remembering when you go out and do stuff. When I was thinking back to the Wade experience, there's a whole lot of things that happened that I didn't tell you about. And it's a matter of having that lens of that experience, what things are worth bringing up and what things are worth saving those precious seconds and not bringing up. So let's bounce that off at you. Not a question we're going to come to the answer to today, but what do you think are some things that should or maybe could go into a conversational story?
Refine that a little bit for me as far as like topics or what are you looking for here?
Not particular, but I mean, I'll go first then. So I'll say that a conversational story should have some sort of tangible thing to it, something that you can visualize in your mind. It should have some sort of point to it where you walk away and feel like, oh, okay, I'm glad he spent my time to tell me that, because even if that because of I laughed my ass off and today's plan is to just laugh our asses off today. It should just have some intentional direction to it. And I'm going to contrast that with every time I study storytelling, people say you have to have stakes and transformation. And I don't think that's true here. I think those can be really nice, powerful additions. But I think if you don't have that, you could still have a very enjoyable and useful conversational story. So I want to refine this as we go through our examples and try them out. So what do you think?
I would agree to a point. I'd be hard pressed to find a story that didn't have some sort of stakes, because if
Hmm.
there's no stakes, there's not really a reason for you to remember and tell that story. Now, it can be something where the stakes are incredibly low, but you make
Hmm.
it seem more interesting and strange. But there still has to be some sort of stakes there. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, this was the time I went out and had a turkey sandwich." You're not going to tell that story unless it's either a damn good turkey sandwich, something happened while you were eating the turkey sandwich, like you started choking, or it was
Hmm.
a horrid turkey sandwich. There's no you have to have something there.
Some sort of stakes. But it sounds like we're both on the same page that it doesn't have to have a transformation. It could be, I went to a place for the best turkey sandwich in the world. They had great turkey sandwiches. It turned out to be the best, and it was a great experience. I'm so glad I did it. That can be a story in a conversation. It didn't have to be, and it turned out, and I was completely surprised, and I walked out a different man. No, I don't think that is a bar we have to be always thrusting towards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The transformation can be, yeah, I'm converted into a fan of this restaurant now. We should go by there later and get a burger or turkey sandwich or something.
All right, cool, cool. So this covers the elements I want us to start collecting up. And I think we'll get a little more refined over time. Some things that we do need, things we don't need. And then these things, it depends on this situation. We can actually explain what situations you need it for. Week, I want to pick a different topic for us to look into to give us some breadth, some depth, and a little bit of fun. So, keeping this a little short, let's move on to your story.
All right. Mine might be a little longer than intended, and you're going to have to bear with me a little bit because this is my first time telling this story this way. Normally,
Mm-hmm.
when I tell this story, I include some details that I can tell you off recording, but to my knowledge, they still use some of these secrets, so I can't give them out.
Mm.
I want to share with you the story of how I became a whiskey sommelier.
All right.
So, for this story, we have to go back to what I'm sure was a crazy year for everyone, 2020.
Mm.
I'm not sure about in Nashville, but around mid March, COVID really swept through up here in Minnesota. And that was when everything shifted into lockdown. All my college classes suddenly had to figure out how to be online only classes with professors who barely knew how to use Outlook. It was an interesting time. But I had been watching and very rapidly falling deep down the rabbit hole of whiskey. I'd been watching a lot of whiskey
Mm.
reviews. I would spend hours watching these things every day. And there was one channel specifically I absolutely loved, and that was the Whiskey Vault, with a guy named Daniel
Mm-hmm.
Whittington as one of the main characters in it, who had a shiny gold whiskey sommelier medallion. And I thought that was the coolest fucking thing ever. And later that year, when I graduated my suddenly online college from the couch, my parents said, well, we can't really have a graduation party because there's kind of a global pandemic going on. Fair enough.
Boo.
Can't do much about that. But hey, we notice you really like whiskey. We want to send you down to get this whiskey sommelier
Aw,
certification.
that's so nice.
Oh my god, I'm 22 years old. I've been drinking for a year. My most expensive bottle is
You
like
liar.
$35. Okay, I'd been drinking for more than a year, but it was college. It was cheap beer. It was garbage.
Mm.
I am not whiskey sommelier material at this point. Oh my god, what am I doing? But how am I supposed to say no to this? I don't think I'm going to get this chance again, because there's no way that I'm when am I going to do this? I've got my mother's anxiety at this point. I'm not cut out for this, but I can't just let this go. So okay, I have to do this. I have to make sure I am ready to do this. I'm going to read the shit out of everything I can find. I'm going to watch all the videos
Mhm.
until I can repeat this back like gospel. And July rolls around. Class was early July. And before I go on the flight, I get sent a little map of the school, and I'll have to show this to you sometime. But it looks like a map you would find at the front of Winnie the Pooh novels. Just
Mm.
hand drawn, cartoonish proportions. Okay, that I'm going on some sort of adventure. This is not normal campus, college campus
They are
stuff.
good at generating wonder.
They're good at generating wonder, but this seems weird. Like, is this real? Okay, cool. Still have my mom's anxiety at this point, so I get on a flight. This is my second time ever traveling alone, and get on a flight. First time ever in Texas, middle of COVID. I'm not sure if you know this, but the people up here tend to be more liberal. The people in Texas are known to be more Republican.
Mm.
And so all the people up here were like, "Oh my God, you're going to Texas in COVID. No one's going to be wearing a mask. They're all anti-vaxxers." And in my head, I was picturing Texas as this flat desert wasteland.
Mm.
I get to the airport expecting it to be the usual busy. I've got my mask on, and it is just a ghost town. Get on a flight, one of the easiest flights. I think I was one of maybe 10 people on it. Land in Austin, call an Uber, get to the pickup spot, and it's this old guy wearing a veteran's hat, mask over his face. He's got plexiglass separating the front and back of his car. He's got hand sanitizer, wet wipes, the whole 9 yards shoved in the back of the seat for me. And the first thing he starts just rambling on about is fucking Trump taking away military benefits. And I'm like, okay, this is not at all what I was expecting. And then we start driving, and I just start seeing like support Ukraine flags on billboards, all of that. I'm like, okay, this is not at all what I was expecting. Check in my hotel, drop off my bag, go to this little bar called Pint House Pub for pizza and a beer.
Mhm.
And good time, go back to the hotel, fall asleep. Next morning, still have my mom's anxiety. It's awful. It's crippling. It truly is.
Wow.
And there's also a little bit of German in me. I'm not sure if you know that. So normally 15 minutes before the scheduled time is on time to me. With the anxiety and never being there, it turned out to be closer to like 2 hours before I was supposed to check in at the school.
Jeez.
So I call up this Uber because also I'm in Texas for the first time. I don't know what's around. I don't know what I'm supposed to go do. I'm just going to go to the school. So I
Mm.
call this Uber driver over. He picks me up, and we start driving out like 30, 40 minutes to the school. And during the drive, we're just going through brush country. It's just rolling green hills, beautiful. And I'm like, this is not the desert I was expecting. I was expecting like Florida levels of flat. What is this? Where
Hmm.
am I? And as we keep going through these rolling hills and there's nothing really there, the Uber driver goes, "Oh, so where are you going?" Place called the Wizard Academy. I'm going to be a whiskey sommelier, I promise. Oh, that's neat. There's nothing really out here. Have you been here before? No. Have you been to Texas before? I'm not sure I should say this, but no. People know where I am. I swear. Don't kidnap me. And he goes, "No, I'm worried for you. There's nothing here. Is this a cult? Are you okay?" I'm not sure. I'm giving them like multiple thousands of dollars to teach me about whiskey, though. Am I getting scammed? What's going on? But we pull up to the school, and there's the receptionist center right there, and there is just a wall of a man with one arm just wrapped in medical gauze, sitting out on a rocking chair. I'm like, okay, it's COVID. Yeah, there's probably not many people, and I'm a little early. He's probably just sitting out relaxing to check me in. So I walk over and he goes, "Are you here for the whiskey sommelier course?" Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, me too. There's no one in there.
You're
Oh
early.
shit. So we just sort of decide we're gonna walk to where we think the little cartoonish proportion map says that the lodging is, and we stumble in. Thankfully, they left the gate unlocked so we could get in, and they had sent us by email our combination to get into our room. So it was fine. It worked out. And his name's Mike. Great guy. But it was just the wildest experience of, am I supposed to be here? This is like dirt roads. There's nothing around. Turned out to be such an extraordinary experience, though. Passed the course, thank God. I think anyone could pass it, honestly. I remember writing on the test the exceptions to the answer that, or the exceptions to the questions they were asking, because I had prepared that much. And it was like an open note test. I very much went way over the top with it. Anyone could pass level 1. And the day before I'm supposed to fly out, I find out one of the guys in the class is a wine sommelier by the name of Eric Waite, who's also now a whiskey sommelier. He was in the course too. And he was going to teach a course that next day on sherry cask finished whiskeys as well as sherry. My flight is at, let's say, like 2 o'clock. The class ends at like noon. The airport's half an hour, 45 minutes away. All right, I'll stay for the class. It'll be fine. It'll be great. I'll enjoyed it all. Had an Uber scheduled so that way as soon as the class was out, I grabbed my bag, threw it in it, and ran. But I drank probably between 6 and 10 different whiskeys as well as that many sherries. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I'm relaxed. We get to the airport, and I'd shoved the big gold medallion in my carry-on because I do not want TSA to lose that bag. I want to hold this thing and make sure I get it home with me. And I'm a little worried. I've had people at the school tell me that, yeah, you can take it through in a carry-on. TSA won't care. I'm still a little worried because it's a big golden medallion. And it goes through the little metal detector, and the TSA agent just goes, "We need to rerun this." Goes through again, and at this point, the whiskey or something had gotten to me a little bit, and I'm feeling cocky, and I go, "Is it the big golden frisbee in there?" And he goes, "Yeah, what is that?" "Oh, it just became a whiskey sommelier, no big deal." "Oh, really? Have you heard of monkey shoulder?" Yeah, I sure have. All right, that checks out. You're good to go. Thank God. Oh my God. Make my flight. I'm one of like 3 people on it. Easiest flight in the world. I miss flying in COVID so much. But it was just such a surreal experience of going down to somewhere I'd never known before, doing something I felt completely unprepared for, being one of the youngest people in my class by far. There is one 21-year-old kid in the class too, so he had me by a year. Not even, probably just some months. To, oh my God, I have found my people. This is the promised land. I need to come back. And preparing for this story, I had found a picture of, they had a little journal in the room I stayed in on the campus, and people had written down little entries of, yeah, we were here for this wedding, or yeah, I was here for a writing class. And I wrote down saying, I cannot fucking wait to come back. I don't know if it will be for level 2, for writing, for what, but I will be back.
Mm,
And oh my god, the way that that whole experience has changed my life and made me more willing to push my comfort zone and just get out there
hmm.
and do something. I am so grateful for it.
Love it, man. Love it.
So how'd I do?
Okay to jump in? All right. Good to give me the cue that it's okay for me to start saying stuff.
I know I went on for a little longer than I meant to.
Oh, this is gold. This is gold. We got so much good stuff we can talk about here. So the last thing is for you, what was the outcome? What do you want this telling me this to change, accomplish, or do?
I want it to have people think, yeah, this is something I can do. I don't know what it is in your life, what mountain you're trying to climb, but if you feel fully unprepared, that probably means you should try and do this. You should push yourself to do it.
Mm, it's nice, nice. Having that goal is going to give us the framework to answer any other question we have about this story. So we have to always have that. I would dive a little deeper on this. So the that somebody could take this away of, for me, the audience, that I should consider taking some risks. So to look at these great things that can come out of it. Maybe there's a second or a tertiary thing. How much of this story is it's something you enjoy telling? You just enjoy remembering this,
It's
or
something I
something
needed
else.
to say. It's one of those
Mm,
stories where I haven't told it in so long, but God, every time I do, it makes me want to get out there and just pour drinks for people, get them excited about it.
mm, yeah. Is there a third outcome or third reason?
The third reason is honestly the closest phrase to it that I have is I'm feeling homesick. I didn't get down to Texas last year,
Mm,
and God, I miss it. It's so beautiful. I love it every time I'm down there. I need to get back.
okay, now let me get into this. So I love this. This is freaking great. When you said you were excited, I knew it was going to be something good. So this is great. With this, there's um, those three reasons you're giving me. There's a lot of different directions we could go with this story. And I think this is the most important step, that every time we talk about this, we get a little bit better at realizing what the story's purpose is to us. Because it might not be even obvious to yourself. Like, I just want to tell it, or I hope it's going to accomplish this, but there might be a secondary thing, or maybe the actual goal is something else. And the clearer you get on that, the better you can make the story, the better you can make people enjoy the story. So now I'm going to go back to the first thing of the start of the story. I think, well, first of all, I enjoyed it. It's a fun story. I also, man, you are getting more expressive with your voice, which is really enhances the storytelling. You're always been good since your podcast days of writing something that has good stakes, good emotions, a lot of happening. But now I feel it more
Hey,
because it's coming across through you. It feels like you're experiencing these emotions instead of reporting them. So there was a couple points like, we won't get into deals, but there's a couple of points like, oh man, yeah, I'm having extra fun of this because I could feel like Ryan's actually had this emotional change there. So going to the beginning, I would have really loved if you had given us a roadmap. One thing that would change, what you do at the beginning is basically the biggest leverage in the entire rest of the story. If I had an idea at the beginning what the purpose of the story was, then I would have an idea of, are we at the ending yet? I would have an idea of, are we getting closer to the end? And a little general idea of like how much further is. So even if you tell a long story, it feels more comfortable because you can tell where we are on that map. Also, if you picked one of those three things as your goal and only had one of them as a goal, that would allow you to remove all the things from the story that were from the other two purposes. And then you could have a smaller bite-sized story. You could have three versions of it that are each for that. And you might even be able to go, yeah. So if that was, I'm just homesick for Texas, and I wanted to tell you that. Like, oh yeah, oh that was great. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the next part? And then you can tell the next part of the story is more like a mini series. Uh, so again, I think we have a lot of mileage we can get out of taking one reason and somehow declaring that in the beginning. I don't think you have to fill out and say, and this is why I like Texas. There's some sort of hint, though, you can kind of give a map in the beginning.
So one thing I've kind of noticed that I do with my stories, and I want to see if you picked up on this now that I pointed out. I've
Mm-hmm.
realized that just from my experience and my work that I've done, I built in like 4 or 5 different ending points to where if we get cut off and the story has
Mm.
to end short, you're not going to feel like you were robbed.
So it is designed to be that way. Yeah, yeah, that's going to be a valuable skill to practice.
It's one of those things where it's not great if you know you can sit down and tell the whole story, but if you are in a position like I have been for most of my career at this point in the
Mm.
liquor field, where someone could walk in and you have to step away and talk to them and make them a drink, or you get called
Mm-hmm.
to help another client or something like that, you have to quickly be able to break away and say, hey, yeah, that's how I became a whiskey sommelier, and God, I'm so happy I did. And then just leave and not talk about the
Mm.
sherry class, not talk about going through TSA, none of that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I'll look for that now when you tell stories. And that actually now makes it possible for me to start learning a little bit of skill because I know what to look for when I see you do it. And yeah, that sounds good.
I
Um,
think it's a skill I almost need to unlearn a little bit because there are times like this where I'm not going to get interrupted. I know I can tell a whole story.
mm.
Or I need to structure it in a way that doesn't have those endings so it doesn't feel as disconnected.
I want us to play with that because there. One of the first things I want to get out of this is the ability to tell those conversational style stories. So the ones where you might get interrupted and you don't have much time. So uh, at least for this, and I'm happy to do other instances where we try something else as well. I would like to try to get short. If this was fun, and I know you, so I know it's going to be good, I know it's going to end somewhere. If I just met you and we were standing, that would have been a difficult length for me.
Oh, yeah.
So this is what I keep thinking. That's the missing gap in our weapons arsenal that I want to start fleshing out for that situation. One thing that I want to see, and you're probably gonna be able to solve this before I do. There's a lot more high points of fun in your story than mine. I would love to find a way that we could make it more interactive because we're not doing the TED Talk style of storytelling. And there's a couple parts where we're like, oh man, I kind of want to dive into this a little bit, but you don't want to let it go completely off the rails. I would love to see what ideas you have to make that more. So this could be more of a conversation back and forth, but it's still going along your route. So I guess what I'm getting at is I think there's a high level skill where whether it's short or long, it's still your story. But instead of it feels like you telling the story, it feels like we're both going down the journey of exploring this story together, but you just happen to be the train guide keeping it go the interesting path. That I feel the story had a lot of opportunities for, and I want to see if we could start doing that more in the future.
Oh, there's definitely some ways I could weave that in, and I think the easiest way is to ask them a question while you're telling the story. So, oh yeah, I checked into that hotel room the first night, and you know how I thought Texas was just this flat, barren desert wasteland. Can you guess what my view was? It was just a
Mm,
flat parking lot.
yeah.
I did not have a view whatsoever.
There's a couple spots like when you mentioned, I think your parents, you said they had got it for you,
Yeah.
included the get, and there was part during your school experience that was different than I knew about, and there was some stuff later on where I wanted to dive into that detour a little bit, not even be guided like, hey, so what do you think about that? Like, but I didn't feel comfortable to stop
Mm.
because we're trying to try this out. But also there was a way in the delivery of, I get the message. This is a monologue that I should stay out of the way of. But I think there is a thing to it where we could have you this be an actual conversation back and forth that still marches forward on the story. Let's experiment with that some more in the future. I know I'm going a little vague on this, but I think you understand what I'm getting at.
I do, and honestly, the best version of this is something I've had in my head for years and years that I've wanted to do as kind of an adaptation of my podcast, where I tell, let's say, the story of Shackleton, but we do it Princess Bride style,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yep.
instead
Yep.
of a little kid interrupting me, I just feed someone enough alcohol to where they are functionally that little kid who will just interrupt me with the dumbest questions and the stupidest little things, but
Mm.
still being able to steer the conversation and get through the story and have it all be in a way that's entertaining and making it better.
Yeah, I want us to master that because that's going to be a skill that you'll need in real life because it's not always going to be you behind the bar and someone in front. There will be sometimes like this networking stuff we talk about. Everyone's an equal. There is nothing stopping someone from completely cutting you off and never getting back to what you were at. And managing those situations, no one's talking about how to do that. And if we invent that, I think that would be a really useful thing to add to the community.
It would be. I will say, though, the best use I've found for storytelling where no one's going to interrupt you is if you're interviewing for a job. They are
Mm-hmm.
there to try and get you to talk and give them an idea about who you are. If you can tell a good story that makes you look good but also human, they will hire you every time. There has not been a single job since I got to Nashville where I interviewed
Mm.
for it and did not get offered the job.
It's a good point. So this is another application, not conversation, but in an interview. That's powerful too.
It's a
Um,
very powerful tool. I've turned down more jobs than I can count because I went in just to hear about what they are, and I told them a story just to answer a question, and next thing I know, I'm getting a job offer. I Things I didn't think I was qualified for, I was getting
mm,
job
mm.
offers for.
So this answers another question I had anyway. So every time when we pick a topic, we have to pick both a topic and an application. Is this going to be conversation? Is this going to be for an interview? Is this going to be for long form? And then focus on that. You know, I want to focus on conversation for a while, but you're right. We should dive into these other useful places too and master them all. This answers my other question of it's kind of hard to discuss this in a conversation context and how you transition into it when we don't have the conversation going on. It was just, all right, go, Ryan. And I want us to figure out a way we could do this. Maybe like if we have an idea of what the story is going to be, we could have some topic that we discuss that's related to that, or maybe you bring the pieces of a conversation to start us talking about that topic, and then you transition into it. Let's figure out how we can do this. One of my goals is to be able to drill a lot of these. So let's figure out how we can do this quickly, but also the real battle conditions.
I have an idea for a version of this, and this is something that I call the politician's angle, where
Mm-hmm.
no matter what the question is, you have a story in mind and you have to make it fit that question.
Yep. Yep. That'd be fun to do too. I'm going to write that down. Okay. Then the final step on this, the ending, don't need to say much about the body. Most of that was, I mean, you're a great storyteller. That was a whole lot of fun. A lot of great parts there.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed
Uh,
it.
and then for the ending, once you started to clue me into what the purpose was, like, oh, this is really great. I got the value out of it. I felt like more connected with you. I had more interested in like more understanding of you, and I'm more invested in hearing the details of the story. It made me again wish, like, man, I wish we had that in the beginning, so I could have been understanding that the whole time. So yeah, I think like connecting our purpose and having that planned out, I think that's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for the rest of it for us.
What I want to try and figure out for that story specifically is how to give you enough of an idea of where it's going, to where you can follow along and get that, but also leave it intentionally vague enough to where you're almost like me and you're clueless of where is this going? Is he getting scammed? What happened here?
Yeah, this is something that I'm strong at that I can help you figure out. We can trade this together. My story, I wanted to say, here is a story how I learned that conversation storytelling is very valuable for work, but that's too on the nose. So I just said, there's a type of storytelling super value that we've all been missing out on. And that's enough that you can tell if we reach the point where I tell you what the storytelling thing is and how it works. Oh, we're done. So you can understand the roadmap, but
That's
there's still
fair.
enough like hole left for you to watch. I've done
Give them
many
a
iterations of this sort
question
of
to
thing.
be answered more so than a roadmap.
Yeah, this was hard for me. Then I moved on to being able to do it, and then I moved on to actually been teaching other people in that writer circle that I do. So I can definitely help us. Like as soon as I thought, here's what I want to say, I instantly have a way to transform this. I don't have to spend time on it anymore. I can do it on the fly. So let's work on that together. Uh, Before we wrap up, any last questions?
No, I think I'm happy with that. I any other feedback about the story just in general, I guess.
I'm going to flat out say I think that the body of the story is going to become the least critical part. So spending most of our time on the transition in and the transition out, um, I'm going to just say your body was already well beyond what it needed to be, where any more time spent on that would be time that doesn't need to be spent.
Fair enough.
Okay. Final thing, during the week, when you think of something that comes to your head, like, oh, you should have done this better, or I had an idea of what I could have done different, or here's something I really liked about it, just send me it. And then we can collect those up and have that be our little look back when we start next episode. I want to make these lean. I want to have like a momentum when we do these episodes. So instead of we need to explore every single little corner, completely fine to like, oh, moved on by. Oh, I realized it afterwards. And that'll still be captured in the episode. Just write them down, send it to me, and then we can have that little discussion to like, we can be the scientists on the back. And then the next episode, we return with our distilled findings.
I like it, and I've got in my head a couple more stories that I want to share with you at some point soon.
I want to do more too, dude. I'm excited about this. So, what we're going to do for next week is I want to hang on to the conversational stories. So, try to be, you're standing on your feet, maximum 2 minutes. It could be as short as 3 seconds, but conversational story about work.
Okay.
See you next time.
Looking forward to it already.